everyone, and welcome back to my channel, The Grim Reader. I'm Kathy Grimm, The Grim Reader, and today I am going to start talking about my list of ranking the reads for 2025. This is the last day of the year, and in German we call that Silvester, so S-I-L, kind of like, I guess it's the name of the saint, but it always makes me think of Tweety Bird, like that Sylvester. And I just think that's so funny that the last day of the year is named after that cat. No, but that's why. And if you know Tweety Bird and Sylvester, which I guess is Bugs Bunny, right? That was with a Y. I thought I saw a Tweety Bird, or something like that. These are my least favorite books of 2025 that I read, and the list is only 27 books altogether, because I'm not including the books / stories or novellas that I read for the independent study, because those were almost all rereads. The one story by Thomas Bernhard wasn't, but that's okay. I don't need to. That's kind of, I mean, they're good, and I don't even know where I put them in the ranking, but they're a bit of a different. They were read for different reasons, so I'm not going to include them. Like, I don't include all the fairy tales that I've read over and over again for my class. I did one time because why not? But not every year. Let's see, coming in as my least favorite book. So the first two are books that I really disliked almost, I would say. I'm pretty, I throw on my 5 stars or at least 4 stars quite a bit. And so, there's rarely a book that I hate, but this one comes close to it. This is the book I probably hated the most, almost hated, because I was disappointed. And it's this one that I know some of you liked it, but I did not. David Mitchell was a big disappointment for me. At least this one of his was. Maybe I just should have started with a different one. The Thousand Autumns of Jacob de Zoet. I didn't like Jacob. I didn't like the writing that much because I am picky about specifically things to do with language and translation. And so what bugged me here was that the writing seemed sort of show-offy and punny and funny in a kind of show-offy, look at what a great writer I am way. But it doesn't quite work because he's writing in English, but the person's supposed to be speaking and thinking in Dutch. And the cognitive dissonance, if that's the right term, kind of bugged me a little bit. Like all these cute puns that would probably not work the same in Dutch. Unless, I don't know, I don't think so. I mean, it's a little bit like the situation when we watch our German crime show every Sunday, Tatort. I say pause it, and I tell my husband what's wrong with the subtitles, because it's like subtle cultural things that they just are not quite encapsulated in the translation. Most of it's fine, but this kind of bugged me. So in general, the style bugged me. I thought the plot was ridiculous and implausible. It didn't sort of evoke Japanese mythology, or I don't know. It just seemed silly and misogynistic, and I didn't like it. I won't go into details about it. If you know, you know. And also sort of over the top in its gruesomeness. It's just annoying. And yeah, so this was, sadly, I did not get along with this book. I did mainly just listen to it, and that probably partly was the reason why I didn't like it. I have a feeling I would have hated it less if I had actually read each word, because I would have been able to think a bit more about things and perhaps give him more benefit of the doubt if I'd been able to read it. Or maybe I just would have liked it better. I'm not sure, but that's what I'm thinking. That's my least favorite book of the year, David Mitchell's The Thousand Autumns of Jacob de Zoet, and I was sad about that, but life goes on. Let's see, 26 was one that I liked in the beginning, and I've talked about this, so I'm not going to say that much, and then I disliked it quite a bit, and that's Pillars of the Earth. So I thought it was good in the beginning, but then I just kept on and on and on and on, and at some point, the contrivances of the plot just seemed to sort of be ridiculous. And so what mainly didn't work for me with this book is that he wasn't able to maintain a high level of my interest in the characters, because for one thing, they would disappear for different reasons. And so there's that going on. But I just think he's perhaps a bit of a lesser writer in that he wasn't able to hold the plot and everything, and so much happening, and too much happening, and not enough reflection about what is happening. And it just kind of fell apart for me. I mean, it kept going. It kept going, and I read the whole thing, or I listened to the whole thing, another listen. This one I don't think would have been benefited from me reading it. I don't think so. So I was disappointed. So this was the other disappointing one. The next ones are getting into ones that I really didn't hate. I just didn't think were that great. They just were like fine for what they were. So these first two I kind of would, I mean, hate's a strong word, but I disliked or was disappointed. The first one I only have, I never got a copy of. It was my first read of the year, and it was Audible. It was a crime novel, a British crime novel by someone called Mark Dawson, who writes a lot of crime novels, and it was called The House in the Woods, and I'll put a little picture here. I always do this. And it was fine. It was fine. It was like TV watching type reading to me, so that's all it was. It wasn't, the detective was sort of mildly interesting. Everything was mildly interesting. Even the plot of the story was mildly interesting. That's all I can say about it. So, you know, it was fine. So that's all I'll say about that one. Then there's a bit of a leap to I liked a little bit more. The next one, 24, and another listen, only a listen. This was a big best-selling novel some years ago by David Guterson. I think that's his name, Guterson. Sorry, I didn't write it down. Snow Falling on Cedars. So it's all about up there the islands off of the west coast of America. I forget what they're called, and it's the novel about the sort of the internment of the Japanese people during the Second World War, and the sort of the tensions between the Japanese people on this island that are strawberry farmers and the non-Japanese people. And it was a good, what I call a good airport novel. It was quite good and somewhat literary and not terrible in terms of its style, but not sort of deep. Although, I mean, some of the sort of reflections on life and relationships and racism were thoughtful, and it was the plot itself was sort of interesting. There's a kind of a mystery there too. So it was pretty good. I would say that one was pretty good. And so that's that one. Next is one that I dipped into, but also made me listen to. My second Stendhal. His real name was Henri Beyle, the French writer. And this is The Charterhouse of Parma. So one gripe I have is that the title has anything to do with the novel. It's mentioned on the last page, and that's it. And that kind of bugged me a little bit, that it has nothing to do with the charter. I was like, where's the Charterhouse? Where's Parma? I am kind of setting obsessed. And if you can evoke a good setting, that wins me over. And this had settings, but they were all over the place, in Italy mainly, in areas in Italy, and then so this one I didn't like as much as I liked the other one that I read many, many years ago, The Red and the Black. This one is sort of Italian aristocracy, and the ins and outs and power games to do with Italian small sort of city aristocracy. I'm thinking to the north mainly of Italy, although I'm not sure. Not up on my Italian geography that well. Yeah, northern Italy. Yeah, it says here. And my favorite part was when this very young boy, almost still, runs away to try and be part of the Napoleonic Wars. That one I thought was exciting when he runs away. But then it came back to him coming back to Italy and just putzing around there and getting into trouble. And he was sort of okay, but he was a little bit spoiled and annoying. I'm sorry, I'm kind of negative, but these are my negative books, so yeah. And so it kept going. It was fine, but it was sort of like all over the place, and the relationships were sort of strange. He has a very close relationship to his aunt and other people, and there's a love thing going on where he's sort of in jail, and it's very strange. It's like, it was an odd book, bit of an odd book, and maybe I just didn't know exactly what I was getting into to really appreciate it. It was not terrible, but it wasn't great either. Wasn't definitely not a top contender of the year of the book. Anyway, but so I don't know if I even recommend this. I think if you're gonna do Stendhal, who's an interesting writer, 19th century French writer, I would go with Red of the Black, which is his sort of, it's talking about Napoleon, and I kind of want to reread that one too, because I'm interested in French stuff, maybe more than even than Italian stuff. Perhaps that's part of it, why this one didn't hold my interest as much. Let's see. So yeah, this is almost the end of the first section. That was that one. This is the top, almost the top of that one, 22. This is coming in at 22, The Commonwealth of Thieves. About the founding of, let's face it, not real Australia at all, but white Australia. It's about the colonizing British people coming in and being colonizers, basically. And that's why I don't like the subtitle at all, the improbable birth of Australia. I mean, I guess Australia, yes, but whatever it was called for other people who already had been there for thousands and thousands of years, not Australia. It's an interesting book, and I was reading around in reviews. So this is straight up nonfiction by Thomas Keneally, the guy who wrote the book that Schindler's List was based on. He's a historian, and he also wrote novels. Maybe I don't know, maybe I should read a novel. And even though it's about 20 years old, I think, it seems dated because of its kind of white perspective on everything. And as I was reading in the reviews, one of the main drawbacks of the novel is that anything to do with the Aborigines in the book, who do come up because they're there, hello, is filtered through what the whites made of them or how they saw them. And so it's very one-sided, very, very one-sided, and very kind of, it's not, I mean, he does try to, he makes out the main guy, Captain Philip, who is always sort of described as boring and dull, and I guess he kind of was. Like, there seems to be, it's such a sort of strange, but maybe it's because it's a penal colony. But they have this sort of inferiority complex about Australian history. They say everyone was dull and boring in the beginning. Where's our George Washington? It's like, as if that would have made things better. Or our Thomas Jefferson. And that everyone to do with the beginnings of white Australia was kind of dull and boring. Well, you know, if you're going to set up a penal colony, you're not going to get George Washington. So it wasn't a civil war. It was a very, very different setup, and a very strange, odd setup to have these British, small-time, usually, criminals come in and, set up a new country with, and so the sort of, the tensions between the non-criminal, and of course, after a while, they become settlers. Are they still criminal? They have children, they have families. It's this very, very fraught situation. And then you have to deal with the fact that you are kind of invading someone else's space. There's no other way of putting it. And so, okay, so back to the book more generally. So it's what's a little bit frustrating here is that in a way the history is fascinating. For all its difficulties, it's still fascinating, even as a weird colonizing thing. And yet the book was not fascinating, is my point. Like, how can you make such a fascinating, layered, complicated historical moment boring? That's a sign that there's something wrong with the writing, or I don't know. And parts of it at the end, and also perhaps because I was listening to it mainly, I didn't really read it, were a little bit boring. Like the ins and outs of, and what was very strange to me is the most interesting part of the book to me was when they were setting out to sail there. So the way the ships were organized, the way that they got the convicts on the ships, so that kind of, I don't mind nitty gritty and detailed stuff. I don't mind boring stuff, but it's something, and then something to do with stuff that's supposed to be less boring is more boring. It could just be me. But so the stuff in England was more interesting to me. I thought, oh, it's going to get really interesting and exciting once we're there, and all the drama of them setting up and all the little, but no, it kind of fizzled out a little bit. And I'm not sure if it's because of the source material that he had was different, or because just the situation of setting up a new world in Australia isn't that interesting, but why isn't, I'm not sure there. And in one of the reviews that I read, they said that it compares a little bit negatively to Robert Hughes's book, which was also pretty famous, I guess, The Fatal Shore. And he's more gung-ho about saying how rotten the whites were to do this, which, yes. But I think what I really need to be doing is moving away from anything like this. And I really want to read the book Praiseworthy by Alexis Wright, I think is her name. So moving on into a less white-centric view of what happened in Australia, because being Australian, it's almost like you are, it's like I'm Australian and I'm German. Two countries that don't have a good track record in terms of being awful to people. So yeah, because and growing up in Australia, even though of course I come from sort of lefty parents, especially my mother, she sort of hung around lefty circles, and her tangent incoming, her first husband was the son of the most famous Australian philosopher, and his name was Anderson. I think his first name was John Anderson. Yes, John Anderson. And he was an interesting, he's Scottish, and his parents are Scottish, which is kind of why she didn't get along with the in-laws, especially the mother, apparently. Mean mother-in-law issues. But he was very lefty and atheist, and sort of like, and he was sort of a quasi, almost activist, like trying to sort of, and sort of anti-bourgeois type person, and getting into this type of thing. But I think what's missing with all of these people is a sense of what we have now, which is, wait a minute, we're all white, what have we done to the people that were here first? So there's this sort of, it's funny how that happened, because I grew up, oh my gosh, one of the worst things ever. Yeah, in third grade, we would put on a play every year. And it was going to be a minstrel show. This is the 70s. A minstrel show. You know what that means. And I guess it meant that, yeah, it meant what I'm not going to talk about. And I was going to sing, we were going to sing Camptown Ladies, and I was going to tell a stupid joke. I remember the joke about, I say, how many cats does it take to, something to do with copycats. It was a stupid joke. But what happened was, because of anxiety and me being a little girl, I developed laryngitis so badly that I could not go to be in it. And I'm wondering if that's my subconscious saying, this is a no-no. How dare we do this? And there was no outrage. This must have been about, it was like, we were singing songs from Hair at the same time. So I don't know, kind of crazy and unaware. But yeah, that was the third grade. So it was 73 or 72. So a very long time ago. But this is my point about how unaware people were. And I don't know, I can't remember if my mother was upset with it. I don't think she was, and she was pretty aware. I mean, we were trying to get me to be able to go to woodworking instead of cooking in the school, because I didn't want to cook thing. I wanted to just do the boy stuff. I didn't want to do the girl stuff. I didn't really want to do woodworking either, but that's beside the point. And they wouldn't let me. I had to do the girl stuff, which I hated. But the minstrel show was pretty scary. Oh my gosh. Shocking. Anyway, a little aside on my growing up in Australia. So yeah, this was a bit of a disappointment too, but it's at the top of the bad list. And I think the last one I'll talk about briefly, because it's sort of 21, coming in at 21, is the one I just finished. And it was almost a 5-star. I would say almost from here on out, they're all 5s, even though there's 20 books, there's 2 sets of 10. There's the 20 through 11, and then there's the top 10. And this was called The Man in the Queue by Josephine Tay. And I listened to it. I don't have a book copy of it. I'll put in a picture. And she's the Scottish mystery writer from, I think, the 40s or 50s. Must have been after the war, so early 50s maybe, because they mentioned the war. And it was quite good. It wasn't, I don't care for the reader that much, but it was fine. It was, it wasn't great. I loved it. I liked it a lot, I would say. It was like between a 4 and a 5, like probably a 4 for me. But so that was that. That was a strange little video, wasn't it? I'm a bit embarrassed about the whole third grade minstrel show, but I didn't perform. And when we were practicing, we never did what I won't talk about. But I guess on the night we were going to. Were we? How awful. No. Maybe not. Maybe we weren't. I hope you get what I'm talking about. It's so awful. I don't know if maybe I'll cut this out. I don't know if I want to talk about this. This is embarrassing. Okay. Yeah, you can tell that I'm over 60 and I've had to yeah, when you're old, you have to sort of come to terms with stuff that you're not proud of. Anyway, I hope this has been sort of interesting, and I'm gonna leave it in, even though it's embarrassing. Yeah, my acting career in elementary school. I did that a lot, that I would get sick on the night. But I remember that one because I was really upset. I was excited to be telling my little joke and singing I still can sing Camp Down Races. Doo-da, doo-da. But yeah, anyway. I'll see you later, and I apologize for this annoying little video. I hope it's okay. And the next time when I come back, I'm going to talk about 20 through 11. So, you know, my second to the second tier of my books for the past year. Hope everyone's doing well. I apologize. Well, it's like 21 minutes, a bit long, but and I'll see you soon. Bye, and thank you all for your lovely comments. So uplifting, and I like to hear that you like the kitties, even though it's repetitive. So they will not be, I will come back and do some kitty stuff, you know, now and then. We'll see how often. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.